This week, the boat moves a short distance from Rockland to Camden, Maine, as Steve hops onto the repairs for the bowsprit cap. Thanks for following along and for being subscribed to the channel, and as always, for your support on Patreon.
It's been a while since you've been on camera, unless you've been filming your life.
Can't say that I have.
The Windjammers were large merchant schooners that made fortunes out of the forests and fisheries from Penobscot to the Chesapeake Bay. Here today in Camden Harbor, boats like Angelique and Mary Day operate as a tourist fleet of floating hotels, taking passengers out amongst the former trade routes. In other words, a picture-perfect place to tie up, get out the circular saw and angle grinder, and make some noise.
This is Victoria's bronze bowsprit cap. So we wanted to reuse it, and we did. And we've had a couple failures. So the first thing was this bottom one went. So this is where the bobstay was attached. And when we were in Rockland, I think the mooring line put some side pressure on the bobstay, and it snapped that off. So I put a sling around it to hold the bobstay, and we went out and endured the hurricane, and on the way back it was really light, so we put up the jib, and then this one broke. It went like that. Now if you look at the grain here, you'll see that it's really, really grainy, and this is a pretty poor metal structure, and this is often caused by not the greatest casting process. So essentially, to my understanding, and please someone correct me if I'm wrong here, that this was probably cast and cooled maybe too quickly, which is why that crystallized, and it maybe should have cooled slower. So since we've had 1 and 2 failures in very critical places, it is definitely time to take this cap off. And I talked with Bob Empser, of boat building, about casting me a new one, but I think instead we're just going to permanently switch over to some Dyneema strops. But I think I want to see if I can keep just this cap part and put that on the tip of the bowsprit, because it is a really nice cap. I just don't trust these tangs anymore. So let's bust out the angle grinder, let's cut all these tabs off, and see if we can get this hooked up better. And you can see the dolphinite that's under there is still goopy. So dolphinite's been doing its job. We'll put some more in there when we put this bad boy back on.
This piece of oak has been keeping things from falling off the workbench since launch. Steve took what he needed from here to make 4 wooden chocks to go at the end of the bowsprit.
So, we've got all 4 of these all rounded out and ready for install. But Robin just told me that she is done with her work for the day. So I think that we're gonna go do a little mountain biking because that sounds like fun. Although, this is really not that bad. I mean, it is gorgeous out, beautiful location, nice dock to work on. Akiva is hanging out and sound asleep. Yeah, really doesn't get too much better than this, except going mountain biking. That'll be a little bit better than this. All right, I'm gonna get cleaned up and go play in the woods for a little bit. This bit isn't set quite long enough, so I'm just gonna extend these a tiny little bit.
I never noticed that there was a star. I love that so much.
Yeah, the Rick cast it. He was one of Victoria's former owners. That's why I tried so hard to reuse it, but it doesn't seem up to snuff anymore. So I'm pretty liberal with the glue. So thank you, Total Boat, for hooking us up with it. Too much glue is better than not enough glue. So even if it seems a bit wasteful, it's less wasteful than having it not work and having to do it all over again. So I like to get one screw snugged down just a little bit and then get the other 2 screws solidly registered and the big part of the shank in their holes. That way everything's lined up and I can tighten them all together. If I were to tighten these 2 down real tight and this one was off ever so slightly, I would have a really hard time getting the screw started and in. But if I start them all things will just kind of pull together as they tighten up, and they won't give me any fuss. So when I'm trying to do something like this, where I'm bouncing around in the tender and getting all of this to fit excruciatingly tight, this could be really challenging. Something that would be really easy to do at a bench, but really tough to do out here. I can get everything to where it is now, which is my biggest gap, maybe 1/8 of an inch. Most of it fits pretty well, and the epoxy will fill that up no problem and give us a nice and perfect fit. We'll let that kick, and I think tomorrow we'll put the slings on and get the rig tensioned up. I think that should do. By the time all of this is sanded a little bit and painted, it'll look much nicer than it does right now. But that'll be a lot easier to do when we haul the boat out and do the bottom job, get that painted and smoothed out. But this will get us going, and be really easy to do the last little bit of finishing up when the boat's not moving around so much.
As he was finishing up here and passing by the stern of the boat, Steve happened to glance through the calm, clear water to the propeller. What he did not see was the sacrificial zinc anode that should be there. It was gone completely. Having dissolved that quickly pointed to a potential problem in the electrical system, which could actually sink Arabella, and quickly. He spent the remainder of the day trying to track it down. We'll go into detail about how that went next week. And though not ideal, it thankfully wasn't bad enough to spoil Robin and Steve's plan to return to the Organ Mountains in New Mexico, where Robin will again attempt to be the first woman to complete the St. Skyline Traverse.
The forward edge here?
Yeah.
I use the same style Dyneema slings that I used for the Deadeyes and to terminate the rigging up at the top of the mast. And they're different colors because they're different lengths. So they're used for climbing, and the idea is that if you go with one manufacturer, they have their color sequence, and you can just grab the yellow sling and you know how long it is. You know the purple one's longer than the yellow. So I chose different ones here because there's different loads. The whiskers here, they're just kind of balancing. There's not a ton of force on them. So I have just one sling that's doubled up. And then the furler takes more force. So there's a longer sling, and that's quadded up. So there's 4 strands on each side that are taking the load. Because the furler load is heavier, I got really distracted yesterday when I realized that the zinc was gone, and that really shifted focus. So we need to leave to get to New Mexico in time and do some family things before we go. So this is just gonna have to stay like this for now, and we'll tension it back up when we get back. But for now, the bowsprit's supported, the furler is safe and isn't gonna be banging around on stuff and hurting itself or other things. So this is a fine point to leave off. And when we get back, it's gonna take me half an hour to get everything tightened up, and then a little bit longer to put the sail on. So not really a big deal. I'm happy with this. It looks a little clunky. It's not as svelte as having like a cap iron, but I don't need to worry about the furler torquing and putting side loads on the tang. The slings can get pulled in whatever direction they want, and be totally fine. This is super easy to inspect, and if any of these do give up the ghost for some reason, there's not really any jerry rigging anything. We just grab another sling and throw it back on there and tension things up. So it's a super easy fix. And we also managed to take out a fitting here and a pair of shackles. So I like the fact that there's fewer things going on. There's no more shackle pins to lose. And these slings are cheap enough and easy enough just to switch out. And don't you worry, they are stronger than the wire they are supporting. So they'll be good for a long time. Well, it's time to leave Arabella for a bit over a month. I am both very sad and very excited. I'm really excited to go back to the Organs with Robin and support her and go see if we can do this traverse for her birthday. And it'll just be nice to have a totally different change of scenery and to get away from the to-do list a little bit. I mean, being on the boat, everything I see, I'm like, oh man, I should oil that. Oh man, I need to get the bottom paint raised up a little bit. Oh, I gotta finish up the head. We gotta get the shower going. So it makes it really hard to just relax and sit back and enjoy, because I'm always just staring at the things I have to get done. It's been a long time since I've had a substantial break from boat work. George Hennahan and David, Mr. Master Mallet Maker, they're gonna come and stay on the boat while we're gone, and there's a couple other people who are checking dates. So we don't want to be pulling all the sails and stuffing them down below and having no room for everybody. And I'm really psyched that the boat's not just going to sit idle and empty for a month, and that people are going to be aboard and be able to make sure everything's good and make use of the boat, because it's a pretty awesome spot here in Camden watching the schooners come and go. So you can see I coiled and hung the lines outboard for the furler and for a few other things, because I don't want lines sitting on the deck while we're gone for a month. If we end up with a few rainy days and that line gets all wet and just kind of sits there in a puddle, we don't want that moisture hanging out on the wood deck. I want the water just to run right off for the most part. Our bathroom vent is working well. So I use this little bronze vent and just glued it right into the house sides. It's one of the nice things about the fiberglass house sides, is that you can kind of cut a hole in it and make it a little ugly, and once a fresh coat of paint goes on, you'll never even notice. If these were beautiful wooden varnish sides, I'd have to be a lot more careful, and it'd be a lot harder to hide repairs and changes as time goes on. And here's the final inside fan. So you'll notice I have two different types of plastic here, and the reason for that is ABS plastic, this black stuff, you can glue with epoxy. This white stuff, PVC, you cannot. So I used the black ABS so that I could just epoxy it right into the house sides and make that permanent. And this system up here is a little temporarily rigged. I've gone through a couple different fans. There was one that came with it, but the housing was really weird. I bought another fan, and it fit between these baffles really well, but the fan didn't want to run continuously. It'd run for a couple hours and then would start to run intermittently, and so that's not good. So what I realized is that I bought a third fan, and that one was super crazy loud. It moved a lot of air, but it was really loud. So this one is the original fan that came with it, and I managed to shove it into the baffle here. It fit pretty well. And then for now, I just electrical taped the two baffles together. So this is pulling through the toilet and up the hose, and then it gets forced down and out. And this is on a downhill run here, so that if water does splash into this, it's just going to drain right back out. That shouldn't cause any problems. And I shut off most of the electrical, but we left a little bit running, so we've got one fan here in the saloon. We got another fan running in the forepeak, They're on low, they don't draw much. I don't really want the battery to get totally full while we're gone, and have the solar panels have no place to put their energy. So the fridge is on and the 2 fans are on. So that'll provide a little bit of drain on the battery. The fans on low help keep things from getting moldy and stagnant. It really helps to have some airflow. So if you look at our panel here, basically everything is off. So the Seafrost refrigerator is on, and the 4-peak and the forward saloon is on, so that we can run those 2 fans. Bilge pumps are always on. This will be the longest I've ever been away from the boat, period, like full stop. Since I started the project, I think the longest I've ever had away from the boat is a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks, like once. And now that she's finished, Robin and I just kept saying the last couple of days, we don't really want to leave, but we really want to go to New Mexico and try to go do this traverse. So it's, it's a trade-off. Yeah, I'll be really excited to get back here in a month, and hopefully everything fares well and get some boat projects done. And hopefully in November we'll still have some warm enough days that we can get out and do a bit of sailing. We did not get to do quite as much sailing this season as we wanted, but that's how life goes, and there is a whole lifetime of sailing ahead. So I'm pretty positive that next season we will get more than our fair share of sailing in. You just got to be a little bit patient. All right, Bella, we'll see you in a month. Be good. Happy how well Akiva has adjusted to boat life. I thought he would. We've done a lot of different things together, he and I, over the last 12 years. And as long as I'm there and I'm calm, he's always been cool with it. So I was pretty optimistic, but man, that mountain dog has taken to the water like a duck. He doesn't like going in the water. He has no interest in swimming, which is actually really nice because he does not want to fall off the boat or the dock. He wants to stay dry. So that is really, really helpful. And he was actually the whiniest he's ever been when we were back in Granby for the tag sale, because nobody was around to pet him. And he was in his pen while we were all doing things. Did I scare you? You were asleep, huh? And you were so whiny in Granby that someone called animal control because they thought something was wrong with you or that we were mistreating you. But we were just doing a tag sale, and you would escape if you were in the house. But he's been really good on the boat, and he doesn't seem to have any issues with it. We take him to shore at least 3, if not 4 times a day. He gets lots of walks. But I think the thing he's happiest about the most is that he just gets to be with us pretty much 24/7, and that makes him really happy. You can just always be in the middle of it.